Alrighty, welcome back. We are here for episode 4. I know we did 2.75 on that last episode as kind of a bonus one where we recorded 2 last weekend. But I know Apple Podcast doesn't like using point anything for episode numbers. So
2.75.
Yeah, even though I had it in the description as 275, it actually came across as 3. So we'll call this one officially episode 4. So this will be a full month of episodes, which is kind of cool.
We've been doing it, yeah. Consistency.
Awesome. So I know that, as usual, right, we wanted to talk about, or just jump right into a little bit behind the scenes on the podcast. So obviously now we've got 3 episodes in the bag, and I think we've been pretty clear with everybody that those episodes were recorded and posted raw. There was no editing. We just pretty much sat down in 50 minutes to an hour, and whatever came out, we just directly uploaded to the podcast. And this one will probably be the same, but hopefully will be the last. I think that what we've clearly uncovered doing the first 3 episodes is that we definitely need to do some editing, some audio editing. Because I know my mic comes across much louder and crisper, and yours over the last couple episodes. And I know when we had Wade and John on, theirs kind of came in and out, and it just is unbalanced. So
yeah,
I think we'll mess around with editing. I'm actually taking some time off from my regular job to enjoy the holidays, and I think I'll mess around with GarageBand or Logic Pro.
What Joe's actually meaning to say is his NVIDIA stocks are going through the roof, so he actually quit his day job.
Independently wealthy now, yeah, sure, I wish.
No, but like Joe said, we're going to be trying to do a little bit more editing, and that's not to say that it's going to be not as raw or not as authentic. It's just, we just want to like tune it up so, like he said, both of our voices are on the same page, and there's not as like many pauses or, you know, it's more fluent. I mean, I feel like the conversations were always fluent, but at least this time it'll be more action-packed.
Yeah, no, I mean, I don't think the intent won't be to edit the content. Whatever it is. I think that works best for us.
Mm-hmm.
It's really just to kind of normalize the sound and just get some balance on that. So we'll mess around with that. Or if there are any aspiring audio engineers in the audience who are versed in GarageBand or Logic Pro, and you want to, we can't pay you. We don't have that kind of money, right?
Could be an intern.
Yeah, give me an intern. There you go. Yeah, if you want to reach out to us and you want to get a credit on a podcast, we're open to that. So
that'd be sick.
Yeah,
I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, why not, right?
Yeah,
so
sure.
Team at exmnds.com is our email address. Just shoot us an email, and we'll entertain that because that would save me the trouble having to learn it.
And where can you buy one of those hoodies that you're wearing there, Joe?
Oh, these are this is an exclusive Minds social butterfly collection.
Oh, wow. Very
nice. So
nice.
this is our tie-dye collection from the summer, and I think that we are officially out of, or it's a summer thing, right? So,
Yeah.
But I know you've got one of our new
this little thing?
Our new lightweight hoodies that's coming out in the next week or 2.
Yeah, something like, but yeah, no, it's good. I mean, I think the direction that we're going, I'm a really big fan of it. I mean, it's more, how would you put it? Like simple, but meaningful, I guess you could say. And I really enjoy it because the quality of the hoodie, for one, I think we found a really good brand that we're working with these. And then the design, it's for the people that I guess you can't see, because I guess no one can see besides Joe here.
Video's coming.
Yeah, it's a rose with the Exclusive Minds tag behind it, and then it says Crescetta, which means growth in Italian, and then New York and Philadelphia, which is where me and Alan are from. So
yeah, it's cool. And then you also added the butterflies onto the sleeves, which is kind of neat.
And like to give a little background behind the butterflies, because some people ask me, what does that mean, or like what does the logo represent? And the last collection that we did, I think it was last summer, it kind of explained that with the whole butterfly effect is just like how if you change something small in a timeline or whatever, it kind of has like a spreading effect throughout the whole thing. So that's kind of like where our logo came from, with like the whole multi-layered type butterfly design.
Right.
So there's the answer. Little gem for you. I don't
No,
know.
it's cool. So we do have those coming. I'm guessing it'll probably be sometime next week.
Yeah.
And again, a little bit more behind the scenes on the Exclusive Minds clothing brands. So one of the things we're going to do is we're actually, it'll probably go down as a pre-order again, like we've done before. It's very difficult, especially for a small company like us, to manage the logistics of bringing inventory in without the actual orders and guessing to make sure that we have the sizes and or the colors right, and then end up getting stuck with a bunch of excess inventory because smalls didn't sell and we got crushed on larges, and it's just very difficult for a company of our size to do. So we're actually just kind of taking pre-orders, and we can probably turn them back around. And within 2 weeks, we've actually got a pretty good thing going right now with
Absolutely.
a printer, which was one of our big hang-ups before. So we think we've gotten that smoothed over, so that if you place an order, you'll probably see it within 2 weeks, if not less.
Yeah, I think most of the companies nowadays are going to that pre-order system. It just makes the most sense. Like Joe said, you're not kind of relying on people to buy or fit into a size that's not true to their size, and it just makes the most sense. Like pre-orders, for us at least, it's a quick turnaround. You're not waiting months. I know people who order stuff and they're waiting months, but for us it's like you usually get it within like 2 to 3 weeks max. So
yeah, I mean, we've been pretty good on that. I mean, if there's any issues where there's delay, I think we're pretty upfront about it and send out emails and just notify everybody. But we've been pretty good with the about 2 week window
absolutely.
after orders are placed. And just to give you a little bit more clarity on that, right? So, like for instance, we're going to be doing a lightweight, midweight hoodie that's going to be available in 2 colors and obviously all the various sizes. And then we're going to do basically the exact same design on a heavyweight in 2 different colors. So between the two, that we'd have 4 different colors and 5 or 6 different sizes. And again, if for us to guess on trying to order all of that,
that'd be a nightmare.
Would just not work. So that's the reason why we do that. If anybody's curious, I mean, I debated it. I know we kind of fought internally about it for a while because I was like, oh, I'm an instant gratification guy, and we sort of all live in this Amazon world where, as we joked before, right, I can place an order and it's on my doorstep the next morning at like 7 a.m. So unfortunately, we're not there. We can't do that with the clothes. So hopefully everybody who's been with us will continue to be with us and help us grow, right?
Yeah,
so
for sure.
Look for that probably sometime next week. And as always, please look us out on social media. We're on Instagram and Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Make sure to share the podcast, share the website, everything.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only way we're ever going to grow. So I know we've got a little bit of a nice little email blast that we send out, and I try not to abuse that. We have been sending out now weekly because of the podcast, but before that, we weren't really sending it out as frequently as we probably should, just from a marketing perspective. So again, we're kind of going through the growing pains and learning curves, but the only way I think that both the podcast as well as the clothing line will ever kind of grow is if we get some organic social media marketing. I think that's probably the route. So we're trying to figure that out.
And I love that, like, how transparent we are with things, because I feel like this will be a great tool to have as like an upcoming business for future business goers to look at this as like a reference. All right, well, these people did this right and they didn't do this right, or for ourselves, you never know in like a year, 2 years time where we could be at, and we could look back on this and be like, dang, like we were worried about pre-orders back then, and now we're on a yacht in the middle of Cancun or something like that.
Wouldn't that be nice? Not Cancun. I'm not going to Mexico.
Okay. All right.
Caribbean.
All right. Sure.
Anyway,
Sure.
But yeah, so so that's kind of a little bit behind the scenes. Also let me close the loop on the podcast itself. So we do have exclusivemindspodcast.com. So if you go there, that'll redirect you to the podcast tab on exmds.com, our storefront for the clothing line. We've got a splash page there where we're kind of keeping track of all the episodes with hyperlinks out to iTunes. And we'll see about adding some, graphics or pictures. And once we get video, I'm sure we'll add some links for YouTube and some other stuff. The podcast is available on YouTube.
I saw that.
I've been posting that up weekly. It basically has a still image, and then it's just the audio underneath it. We'll continue to do that as well. That was a request from my daughter, who I think gets every ounce of her news and lifestyle stuff off of YouTube. I literally think she spends 23 hours a day on YouTube. So
Hey, man.
I recognize
Nothing wrong with that.
that's an outlet, so we'll continue to do that. We're looking at Spotify, and as we mentioned, we're considering videotaping this starting next year, just to add another layer, and we'll keep at it. And that's kind of, I guess, the update on the podcast and on the clothing brands.
Fantastic.
So, got some good stuff coming.
Absolutely. So this week, I understand that you were traveling. You want to talk a little bit about where you were at and your whereabouts?
Yeah, so for my day job, I actually was out in St. Louis earlier this week for 4 days. I was doing a SuperComputer trade show, and I actually had an opportunity to speak on the SuperComputer TV, which is very much like a podcast, I guess, with video that they post on YouTube and Facebook and all their social media accounts, just describing a little bit about the company I work for. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting. I mean, I walked into that room, and it's amazing how fast you can kind of learn that you are obviously not the most intelligent person in the room.
It's not always a bad thing, though.
A lot of PhDs and a lot of very intelligent people floating around that room. It was cool. I mean, it was very, very cool. I mean, our company, the company I work for, we sell quite a bit of product into data centers, especially around power. And without boring everybody to death, right? So we do sell into data centers, enterprise class data centers, and SuperComputer is kind of a new thing. So it was kind of an interesting experience. But,
how was it being back?
You mean in person for? Yeah. So this was a what I'll call a one-to-many event, right? It's I don't know how many people they had. It was actually very lightly attended.
Oh, really? Not a lot of people?
I mean, there was enough that it was, it was kind of interesting. It was actually very annoying, right? So this is in St. Louis, Missouri. We had to actually prove that we were vaccinated, right? They literally had us submit our vaccine cards and verify it through some sort of a system. That was the only way you could get into the show.
So that was like before you guys even showed up. You had to send it. Okay.
Yes.
See?
And then to make it worse is, even though we had to prove we were vaccinated, we still were required to wear masks the entire time, which was just annoying, if you ask me. But hey.
Yeah, my mom and Hayden, my brother, sorry, they just went to New York yesterday in order to like get into a restaurant. It's not like as like thorough as like sending it in advance or anything, but you just kind of go and show them that your ID and your vaccination card. I guess it's more strict over there. I haven't had to show my vaccination card yet, so.
Not here in Pennsylvania. It's still not too bad. But yeah, I mean, that's it's just the way it is. I mean, you just got to deal with all these nuanced rules regardless of where you go. It's funny because, I mean, I fly into a town and I don't even know what the rules are, so I'm kind of walking around without masks and just trying to judge from the vibe of people around me. I personally I'm done with it. But yeah, so I mean, it was kind of an interesting show. I mean, I know for maybe some of the audience, especially on your end of the spectrum, right? It's more about where the hell is my GPU? And so, I mean, obviously,
where the hell is my GPU? So that's the question.
Here's the crazy thing, right? So, I mean, obviously, supercomputers are all built around GPUs, right? So,
absolutely.
NVIDIA and AMD and all of the big GPU vendors were at the show. Actually, I think NVIDIA bailed out at the last minute. But
really,
it's all GPUs in these boxes, right? And where your computer has one GPU, these guys have boxes that are about the size of a cart or just like an Amazon box that's got like 8 GPUs in it. Right?
Yeah, I mean that's how the people are mining crypto. Not to go far back down that conversation, but yeah,
everybody was hammering these guys about availability, and it's funny. One of the companies that I think right, MSI.
Yeah.
Right. So MSI tweaks the cards to get maximum performance out of it.
Yeah,
they were like, we've only gotten like 200 GPU deliveries over the last, 6 months or something like that. And this is a company that buys, thousands of these things, right? They're not like you and I, right? And they can't get them.
Yeah.
So, it's a pretty ugly scene, I think, from that perspective. And I don't know if there's any light at the end of the tunnel. I mean, obviously the Department of Energy and Los Alamos Labs is going to get their GPUs.
Do you know like the current way that people are getting GPUs right now? Actually, no.
They're buying whole systems, or
they're buying exactly. So what people are doing now is they're buying like a cheap pre-built, not like cheap, but like a cheaper pre-built with the like 30 series graphics cards. So you'll buy like a whole nother computer that's like not as good as like your main computer, but it has that 3060 Ti or the 3070,
Right.
3080, 3090.
Just to take the
just
card
to take
out
the card
and,
out and
yeah.
then like sell the parts. And I mean, like that's the unfortunate world we live in right now, where in order to get something
Yeah,
that
I mean,
everyone
so I
wants
mean,
is
I'm guessing
that.
we're seeing that all across the board, right? I mean, it's a whole supply and demand thing. So if you are a builder, right, why would you sell just a GPU for, even if you can mark it up and get $2,000 for it? You know, why not wrap it around a system and make some extra bucks, because you're almost forcing people to do it. So,
And you're also selling other parts that way. You're selling the cases, you're selling
making margin on all
motherboards,
that, yeah.
everything, exactly. So it makes the most sense for them to do that. I mean, that's the same thing that we're doing kind of like with the free shipping. We're kind of incentivizing people to spend more just so it's like, you know, out of our hands at that point.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of an interesting dynamic. Supply chain has impact all and up and down everybody's life cycle, right? So it's not just food and toilet paper; it's GPUs and computer products as well, and everything in between. So it's a crazy world we're living in, and it's kind of challenging to navigate, especially when you're on the resale or wholesale side of things and trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
bear with us as we kind of work through it, especially on our clothing line.
Yeah, I mean, your week sounds more interesting than mine. This week, a bunch of games came out. I was at the house just playing. Like the new Halo came out, Call of Duty came out like 2 weeks ago, Battlefield came out. So all these games, like there was a dry spell all throughout like the summer. There was like nothing to play besides like Apex. Sorry for getting all nerdy and geeky for our listeners if you guys don't care about this, right? But listen, so we're playing like Apex throughout the whole summer. And then all of a sudden, all these games just come out. And I know my girlfriend, shout out to Taylor, she was getting pissed off that I'm playing. Like, if I get bored of one game, for example, if I get bored of playing Call of Duty, I'll hop right on Halo. And then if I get bored of that, I'll just get onto another game. And there's just like all these games right now. So the fact that we can't get these GPUs and we can't get these nice things kind of is like, oh my God, like I just want to have something good to play these games on. But
so are you playing on consoles or are you playing on a PC?
Just all on PC right now. So a lot of my friends, we all started as console people. Like as you know, play with the Halo and stuff like that. It was always about the 360, and then PCs were always kind of like not like a foreign concept, but it was always just like PC versus console or controller versus keyboard and mouse or whatever. And everyone in my friend group were always been console. And then it wasn't until the supply chain with PlayStation, the PS5s, where no one could get them, we're just gonna get a PC. Like we're doing all virtual schoolwork. We're doing our business online. We're doing who knows what online. Might as well just ramp up on that. And after a long day of work or a long day of school or whatever, you know, you're typing away, whatever, you don't have to like go unplug everything, plug your thing in, or just go and do everything. It's just so accessible just to close a tab, open another tab, and you're right playing with your homies just like how you would a console. So
yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, so you never actually got a PlayStation 5 or an Xbox?
We waited outside of Walmart at like 4:00 in the morning to get a PlayStation. They were like, "Yeah, we don't have them." So after that happened, it was like a big kick in the nuts. I was like, "All right, I'm not gonna do that." So after that, we all just were like, "Yeah, this is the final straw." My friend Alex, he was the first one to buy a PC. We're all kind of like hammering him, like, "Oh, you got a PC? Da da da. You got to get a console, like whatever." Give him a hard time, and then I bought it, and then the John and Wade that you met, they hopped on, and ever since then, everyone's just been on the PC wave. It is expensive, but if you do the math, like, you know, you're paying monthly for these things. Like Xbox, I think it's, you know, for the gold or whatever to play online, even it's like $60 a month, or not $60 a month, 60 months a year, or whatever, 75. On PC, you don't have to pay anything. The only thing you pay for is the games, you know? So it makes the most sense to just go that route. I think that's like the most efficient way. And I don't know. I always thought gaming would just be a phase, and here I am 22 years old, still loving and enjoying like every second of it. I really enjoy it, you know?
Well, I mean, for fairness, I don't think you'll ever get away from it. I mean, I'm 50, what am I, 54, 55? And I'm still playing video games, so it's with you forever. I mean, it's part of who you are, I guess, but not as religiously. And I literally play one game and one game only because I don't have the time or the patience for it. I shouldn't say that, because every once in a while I
get on a kick of it.
Well, I mean, I tend to gravitate myself personally towards the role playing games, the fantasy role playing games. So I know when like Dying Light, some of the zombie stuff. I
Okay.
just avoid the first-person shooters. 'Cause
Yeah,
I
you
don't-
like the single player games, right?
I don't have the skill for that, right? So I can't
Yeah.
keep up with you.
That'd be a cool, interesting idea. Maybe for like the YouTube channel, have like both of us play like an FPS game.
Oh God,
And
that would
then-
be hysterical. Actually.
And then like I don't know, we could play like so. There's these things. So the reason what I play on gaming is like called like GBs or which stands for game battles or like wagers, which is for money. So like you start implementing that money factor into gaming, it's like a whole new world. It's like a whole new. You got skin in the game at this point now, so you're kind of latched in. So if we start playing stuff like that, well, maybe not wagers, but competitively.
So
man,
I mean,
that'd be like insane.
all right. So there's a lot of things on wrap here. So yeah, I think that doing or showing us side by side playing a first person shooter would probably be hysterical because I would lose my mind and
That would be fantastic.
We'd have to videotape that because
Yeah. Like a dual face
I'm
cam
sure
or
my
something.
reaction, and I'd probably at some point throw my freaking controller through the screen because I just come on, it's crazy. These kids. But so I'm curious. So if you're actually playing for money off of your home PC, aren't there so many like variables that you can't control, like latency and
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's great.
some dude's got like a $4,000 video card to your like $900 card or whatever it might be, or are you going to get smoked? I mean,
Yeah, that's a great question. And there's multi layers to that question. I mean, first thing obviously being latency and everything like that. So the way that they're breaking it down right now is to play like instead of playing a best of one, which would be a one and done match, whoever hosts, but now we're doing best of three matches. So for example, I'll host a match on my connection, you'll host a second match on your connection, and then sometimes it's randomly generated who's on the third map, so you might get an advantage there. That's how you answer that part. The big thing right now though, especially with Call of Duty, is all these cheaters. There's so many cheaters on the game. There's so many there's things called like wall hacks, aimbot, all that stuff where I'll be playing like regularly just how anyone else would be, and then exactly where I'm at any exact moment, and you just auto lock onto my head. Like in a first person shooter, it's hard to do that, all organically get like 100 headshots in a row.
For sure.
And the problem with that is, like I said, people are playing for money. So if you're playing for thousands of dollars, on a weekly basis or whatever, this is a huge problem. So this multi-billion-dollar company just now is starting to implement anti-cheats, and everyone's like, why the hell did it take you so long to do this? Right? So that's a big problem. Just this weekend,
so are they trying to monetize it? I mean, I'm guessing the reason they never put any cheats in is because they had no skin in the game, right? They don't care. I mean,
it's.
But are they trying to monetize it now with leagues or professional?
So there's leagues and there's professional play. Like you could buy into like a CDL, which is basically like the NBA of gaming. Like I know like Cloud9, Luminosity, Optic, FaZe, all these big companies, they have to buy into, for example, Call of Duty, like a Call of Duty placement being like a Call of Duty slot, and there's like 12 teams or whatever. One of those spots is like $20 million. So now that there's some serious capital involved, they're like, all right, we got to figure out an anti-cheat. And just this weekend, shout out to Scump, he just won for one Warzone game, I think it was. I didn't really pay too much attention. I saw the clip on Twitter. It was crazy. For one game of Warzone, he won $100,000 off of one game. So like one sit-down session, it looked like. And correct me if I'm wrong, but he sat down. It was all these like content creators and gamers, so there's no one that's going to be really cheating in it. There's like a bunch of reputable names. $100,000 in like, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or so. Yeah.
So that's legit money.
Yeah.
So I guess the other thing I am curious, because I don't follow this obviously at all, right? I don't, you just rattle off some names and I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? But is it the same people consistently winning, or I mean, I would imagine that the pool of talent and the levels between people is either super close that it's really, I'm guessing it's almost impossible to have sort of a consistency where it's the same person over and over again.
Yeah, you'd be surprised. There's definitely a few names that every year they're beasts. Like every year they're always going to perform at the top every single year. But then you also have guys who'll win a championship, not to mention any names, but they'll win a championship, and then that's it. After 1 year, that whole team will be completely gone, never heard of again. And then you're kind of asking yourself, like, well, what did you do with this prize money? Did you make it so you could have longevity with that, or did you kind of just blow it all away because you thought you were going to be competing at the top of your game? And some of these guys who are consistently competing at the top, like I said, that one guy's name that you had no idea, like Scump, like there's this guy named Crim6 in the Call of Duty. And all these guys, I mean, they play as for as long as they can, and then what ends up happening is they end up just switching to the content creating route, which is just like them doing YouTube, Twitch, or whatever, just because competing is so taxing. Like you have to make sure you're on your reactions, or there's a lot that goes into it that people would be like, oh, that's not important. But if your reactions and you're not playing for 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, you're not going to compete with these young guys who are coming up and actually making money off of it, or hungry to make money off it.
I'm guessing it's very much like poker, right? Professional poker, right? It's the same thing where, like, every year the World Series of Poker is won by somebody different, right? Because there's 7,000 people entering, and I'm guessing it's the same thing on gaming, right? There's no necessary consistency on who's winning tournaments, and then it almost breaks down to personalities kind of overcoming all that and becoming sort of the stars of the industry without actually necessarily winning anything.
Yeah. I mean, that's like the guy Dan Blazarian that played poker. I mean, he was I never saw him play poker, but he was more known for his personality more than anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I mean, he could be a trash poker player for all we know. But you just know him from his Instagram persona, 18 women around him at all times, private jets, his cat, whatever he has going on.
Yeah, no, I mean that's what I'm thinking, because I mean if you look at poker, it's the same sort of thing, right? There's probably a dozen names that I think even regular day people kind of would recognize, and beyond that, it's just white noise for the masses. And I'm guessing that's the way gaming is going, but it's kind of interesting.
For one of those orgs I just listed to you, we talk about the stock market all the time. They're actually going public. FaZe Clan's going public beginning of 2022, I think in March. It's a $1 billion organization they just got valued at. So
yeah, well, I'm sure there's a lot of pent up money for sure. And all that.
It's a crazy giant scale. Like you have like the main organization at the top, and then you have subdivisions, content, casual gaming or whatever, and then you have competitive, and then from there's even more subdivisions, and it's like this crazy spider effect of like all these different money flows or passive income streams or whatever the case is for these companies. And that's like, I genuinely think that's going to be the future of the way that a lot of these people are played. I know we talked about it off air of like maybe in the future when you get onto like a World of Warcraft game or a Call of Duty game or Battlefield, Halo, whatever it is, you have like a challenge you have to complete. If you get 50 kills in one game or you beat X amount of bosses in one day, you could get paid for that just based off of everyone throwing money in at an initial amount. And like I know there'd be a bunch of legalities like, oh, is this an online gambling or online casino or however, but that could be like a future for a lot of these people. Like I know a lot of people didn't think nothing about like Fortnite until they started seeing millions of dollars being generated from this like kids game, you know what I mean? So that could be like something that could happen in the future. You might start training your kid, hey, are you getting on the game from 4 to 6 instead? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, so you laugh. An old friend of mine, his son actually went to college and got a scholarship for gaming, e-gaming.
Really?
Yeah, I want to say it was Rider University, but it's a smaller university, but there's a whole. I mean, he actually goes into tournaments with 12 or 13 other universities, and some of them are pretty big. Like I think it was like University of Arizona and a couple others. They actually have, scholarships now for e-gaming, right? So you're not only going in academically, but you're actually getting dollars for being good at video games. And I'm sure he's taking like game theory and all these cool courses that are wrapped around this whole industry nowadays. But yeah, it's something else. It's very lucrative.
There's a lot of money being thrown around, and like you said, like people are getting scholarships for it, and there's like a bunch of clubs. Like at Westchester, I think there's 4 or 5 different types of esports teams. I know we have a Call of Duty team, 2 Overwatch teams, and I think a Valorant team.
Wow.
And yeah, I don't know if they take any money off your scholarship, but it's just something where they give you like a jersey. I know that says Westchester on it.
If they can turn it into a profit area, right? I'm sure that they'll do anything. They have to almost kick back, but yeah. I'm just gonna stick with my my Warcraft, and that'll be my my one vice for whatever.
Has it always been Warcraft? I saw like obviously you have like the Halo over there. That's like always been like the thing you always kind of wrap back to?
No, I mean, so I obviously have the old Xbox, and so every once in a while there'll be a game that comes out. Like I think the last time I played on that was Shadows of Mordor, which is kind of like a Lord of the Rings kind of knockoff.
Yeah.
I played Dying Light, which is kind of a zombie, but it wasn't a first person sort of zombie.
You had Titanfall, didn't you?
Yeah, but Titanfall was
first person.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's the same company that Respawn, right?
Yes.
Yeah, they developed Apex, I believe. And
Yeah.
that's like the game that like I was talking about.
Yeah, Titanfall was the last time I think I played a first person shooter, and I just it sucked. It's that's the challenge they probably have, right? I mean, it's first person shooters are cool, but there's a finite number of people that probably find enjoyment in that versus. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't really know, but yeah, not for me. First person shooters aren't for me, but yeah, I mean, I guess I've been playing Warcraft since 2004. I think a long time.
Yeah. Switching tracks. How's like I know we talked early in the podcast. We're a month in. How have you been liking the podcast so far, and just from your personal experience?
It's great. I mean, it's been enjoyable. It's very enjoyable doing it. I think we talked about this, right? That very first episode, I was like, what the hell are we going to talk about?
Mm-hmm.
Right? I mean, we were like taking notes and like,
stressing out about it.
We really need to figure out what we're going to talk about. And I'm sure we'll get to that point where we're like, okay, we're starting to run thin on ideas. We'll start recycling stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's been wonderful. The feedback that we've gotten or I've gotten has been pretty good.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Other than the mic levels being different, and we do need to do some editing, but yeah, I mean, it's an interesting experience. I think everybody should do it because it's kind of therapeutic. Like I think you mentioned it, right? Yeah. It's kind of nice just being able to
voice your opinion,
get on and spew. We're obviously avoiding certain topics that I think eventually we'll probably get to, but it's a difficult, it's a challenge. You don't want to say something that's going to haunt you forever, and at the same time, you want to have the ability to say something that can haunt you forever, I guess. But
as you mentioned, I think the first episode, just like you being a business person and me, like in the business undergrad program, whatever, we kind of structured the first episode like we were preparing for like a presentation. We had like, you know what I mean? Like we kind of had like the mind node, and we were kind of like doing it that way. And we were kind of like just thinking of things that we should like rehearse to say. Like I just gave for a class, we had a 15-minute presentation, and you kind of like repeat the same thing over and over in your head to kind of like prepare you for it. And that's like kind of how the first episode was going. We're like, all right, we need to touch on this, where I don't know, it just always kind of flew naturally. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's been a fun time.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I look forward to it now. I mean, It's obviously the 4th episode, right? So
cut to like episode 50. We're like, all right, this is gonna be the
short. But right now it's very enjoyable. It's fun to do.
How'd you like the dynamic of having guests on here?
Oh, that was fabulous, actually. So I think that's really good. It's something we definitely need to do. So if there's anybody out there that wants to be a guest on the show, if you've got something to talk about, we probably want to talk to you about it. So again, team at exmnds.com. Shoot us some ideas. I know Dave and I have been talking a little bit about that, and we've got some ideas. I don't think we've approached anybody, but there's a couple of local business owners, both in the auto business and just in general, that we would probably just love to talk about or talk with, and just get some conversation going and see where it goes.
It's awesome with the guests, and these two that came on the last podcast, they're always like down to do another one. They're always like, hey, if you need someone, whatever, we got it. So we'll definitely bring them back. But as you mentioned, like when you're looking at someone from an outside point of view, you kind of have like a judgment or an idea of what that person's like or whatever. But then you kind of get to know them. You kind of peel back those layers. Sitting up here for an hour, you start to really get to know somebody or kind of understand where their head's at. Like this is kind of like a raw, uncut type deal where you can't fake yourself for an hour plus. Like it'd be easier in a YouTube video, and I feel like a lot of people say this, where if it's a 15-minute extremely edited clip on YouTube, it's easy to edit that. But if you're up here, especially us, where we just like kind of posted the raw file of like our first 3 episodes, you can't really fake that. I mean, I remember in the first episode, you were like, do you want to redo the intro or whatever? Like, nah, just keep it going. We might as well just do it straight on. So having some of these guys on here that we're thinking about having, you know, like he said, from like the automotive industries or just local business owners, or eventually get some big names on here. Who knows? It'd be interesting to see kind of like where their head's at on certain topics. And obviously, like you said, we're trying to like dance around certain things right now, but you never know. People might be interested in hearing some of that stuff. And
yeah, I mean, I know we've talked, and I think we always want to try and take a little bit of a different look and take on things. Like it's one thing to, you know, do video reviews of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and you know, show videos of you driving around in cars, but it's a whole different thing to like maybe talk to the local, you know, McLaren dealers, salespeople, and just say, hey, how is it a cool job? Is it
worth it?
Yeah, do you get to drive around in demo cars? I'm sure you're interacting with very successful people. Does that rub off? You know, those are the kinds of questions that I think would be kind of cool to actually ask and hear. That are more what I'll call behind the scenes. I know I'm starting to overuse that word, but I think that's just as interesting, I think, as, you know, the flashier side of the business.
Yeah, and it's not that you're overusing it. It's just being raw. Like, that's just the type of people that we are at the end of the day. We like to be kind of seeing the transparent number at the end of the screen, and that's kind of what we're bringing you. If you guys like hearing the behind the scenes, that's the type of people that we are. Like, I feel like when we first thought about doing the generational gap thing, we thought we were going to like disagree on a lot more things and wait until we get to certain topics. But for the most part, I feel like we share a lot of the same views on certain topics like that. And like you said,
yeah,
once you get to know someone behind the scenes, then
well, I mean,
it's a whole different ballgame.
The reality is, I think most people are pretty much on the same playing field. It's just, you know, there's subtle nuances.
People trying to give hot takes for clicks.
Yeah,
I mean, we gotta find something that's gonna be like, oh my God, can't you believe he said that?
Yeah, I mean, that was one of the things we talked about. Is like, do we need to do stupid stuff to actually get clicks and stuff like that? Maybe you do. I mean, that's the sad reality, right? I mean, you know, that's the quickest way to get to 1 million views, right? It's probably to, like, you know, jump off your roof and land on your head or something, just something silly.
For the viewers that are here from the first 4 episodes, if we start wilding out and saying crazy out-of-pocket things, just know it's all for the clicks. We don't mean any of the actions that we're trying to say. That's funny.
It is a fine line for sure.
Absolutely.
Hey, I did want to ask you one thing that I did have one experience, and as soon as it happened, I was like, I got to ask Dave about this. So
sure.
I don't know if it's your generation or you. I know when for you, like when you use your phone, you're actually FaceTime. You don't actually call people. You FaceTime everybody, right?
For the most part, I would say probably 85% of the time. That's generous number too. Probably 90%. Close to 90%. I mean,
is that a generational thing? Do all your friends do that as well? Or, I mean, I kind of get the impression that everybody's kind of comfortable FaceTiming each other, even for just, you know, casual calls and stuff like that.
I mean, I know it's kind of weird to some people, but I like to, like, if I'd never met someone before, I'll FaceTime them just to kind of see, like, not all the time. Now, there's like always like a business type setting you have to kind of present yourself with. But, like, if I feel like it's, like, a mutual kind of casual conversation, I'll throw them a FaceTime. Might as well see what they're doing, see if they're available to do something. And you get to see, like, live facial expressions if you said something that they don't like, or, you know, it's kind of like a big thing in business, you know, when you're giving a presentation.
I mean, this is part of the reason why I'm asking, because, quite frankly, I never use it, right? I mean, I have an iPhone, and all of my coworkers have iPhones, and that button is there, and you know, I'll call people every day, and I will just talk to them on the phone, but I'll never hit the FaceTime. And it's like, you miss a lot of the nuances of, like, you know, facial expressions and stuff like that when you're doing that. And I thought it was kind of interesting. The reason I was asking you about, though, wasn't necessarily that, but I kind of get it now that I'm thinking about it. The reason I was asking is I was sitting in a Starbucks.
Okay.
And there were a group, I think it was 3, sitting at a table, and the girl pulls out her phone and FaceTimes her friend, and she's holding it up, you know, to the table with the 3 other friends, and it was a very, very loud conversation in a public area, and I was like, is this just the way kids do it these days? Or
I think there's a time and place. I feel like if yeah. Now, for me, when I call you, how many times would you say
I should
would
also
FaceTime
add
you?
that the conversation at one point got kind of graphic as well.
Okay,
I
all right.
won't get into it. It was just like, and I was
Something-
like shaking my head going, wow. I mean, the fact that it was just a very elevated,
Yeah.
loud conversation in a Starbucks, and I was like, what the hell?
I mean, the Starbucks around here, it's not as like crowded as if you were to go to like New York City and like a Starbucks up there where it's like a lot of loud noise, so you could be on a FaceTime call and
Right,
it'd be
get
like a
away
normal
with it,
thing.
yeah.
Like around here, you get on someone with like a FaceTime call, you prop it up on like a.
Well, this was around here.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Then that's a kind of a problem. I mean, for when I call you, how many times would you say I FaceTime you? I'd have like, let's say 10 calls.
7 maybe.
So, yeah, exactly. So it's like it's a better part. Like it's just something I feel like not just I don't know. It might be a generational thing. I don't know.
Well, I was curious. I mean, because I do see the value in it, and I just don't do it. And honestly, I'm not sure how well it would come across. Like I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm going to actually maybe ask some of my peers.
See what their feedback is.
What they kind of think of it, because I'm sure if I started the FaceTime, they would probably just pick it up and we just kind of go with
continue
it.
the conversation.
But I don't know. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I never had anyone like call me out for that. Like, why'd you FaceTime me? It's always just been like a regular phone call. Now, when do you think it's like something where it's unprofessional to call someone, or do you think it's just something where people just don't utilize the feature on the phone?
I don't know. I mean, obviously, when you're in a work environment, I guess you could catch people. You know, I can take a call when I'm in my pajamas or whatever it might be, right? So I don't know. I mean, I don't use it, and I know none of my peers use it. You know, on any sort of consistent basis. So.
All right. So now I have a question for you for your generation of people. Okay.
People,
yeah. So, you know that Mexican restaurant? It's a fast food chain restaurant. What do you call that?
Are we talking about Chipotle?
Okay, there you go. You said it right.
No, I did that on purpose.
So you said it right this time, but
I do.
My mom religiously calls it Chipotle.
Yeah, I do too. I mean, but I do that intentionally.
Why though? Okay. Well, just like the Yezi thing.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So my mom, I don't know. I feel like it's like once you hit the age of 40, you're just like Chipotle. Oh, 40th birthday, Chipotle. It's like an immediate switch.
So, yeah, for those, so what happened was I always say Chipotle.
Yeah,
and
you say Chipotle.
What was it, Yeezy?
Yeezys? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeezy for.
I was doing it on purpose.
Yeah, I know the Yeezy thing you were doing on purpose. But genuinely, like, if you were to, like, ask anyone. You could even ask Ida, ask anyone. If you ask them what they call that, I guarantee you, out of 10 people, 9 out of 10.
My wife corrects me all the time.
Does she actually?
Yeah, she had it
she's on
dialed
point.
in.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So ask any other people. I guarantee
And
you.
that's part of the reason why I did it wrong, just because I knew
Just to kind of get under their skin.
it was annoying her. And then it was for me. It was like it started out just as kind of a joke, and then I actually now like kind of in a rut where I do it. I just do it. Let's go to Chipotle.
Yeah, there's like a picture going around on Twitter. I always see it. It's like society if like what's it called? Older people were to say Chipotle instead of Chipotle. And it's like society where like there's like floating cars and stuff just like messing around. But it's hilarious that like I don't know. It just is like.
So the other thing that's one thing. The other thing you'll start to run into, especially as you kind of get into the working world, especially if you have a traveling job, is you get into regional dialects. So it's always, I mean, Acme doesn't come up. I mean, that's one of those words that depending on where you're at in the country, people say it differently. But water is one.
Water.
Yes,
there
water.
You go.
I used to be like a water guy. Like,
yeah.
And I've actually like kind of self-correct myself to water, right? You know, and there's a couple of things. And then obviously there's regional variances you'll come across, like, you know, in the Midwest people call soda pop. I'm like, what the hell is pop? I mean, you know, it's a given, but when you start to get into those environments and you're like, what the hell are all these people talking about pop? You know, what is that?
Yeah, and then especially up in this area, like in the Philadelphia area, people don't like, they're like John. Like, what does John mean?
I don't.
It's like a whole different world between like.
I know Pittsburgh, it's yins.
Yins,
yeah.
I have a couple of friends from Pittsburgh, and they said it to me. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I had a friend who went to college out there, and we would always joke around that yins. What y'all yins doing?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm like, what does that even mean? Like,
so
yins.
You get into a lot of these, you know, social constructs that are kind of interesting. But
the best is when they're like from like the United Kingdom or like overseas, where it's like. The accents like different, you know, even down south, like you said, like there's just like crazy different accents, or we have accents to them. It's like, oh my god, there's a giant gap here. I feel like we're not on the same page with a lot of things, but
At the end of the day, you are. I mean, it's just
Yeah, just the way it's delivered.
sound.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Not meaning. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. So
Yeah. So where'd you say you went for that
St. Louis.
St. Louis?
St.
Now
Louis,
is there?
St. Louis, Missouri.
Now I know we're kind of circling back here, but any good coffee down there? Or what do we compared to like?
So I didn't have my Savannah issue there. No,
Okay.
no, I just drank Starbucks.
Okay.
The hotel had a Starbucks at the base of it, so I was drinking nitro cold brew every day. So I was.
We gotta
good.
get paid by Starbucks, man. We gotta send out like some sort of contract. I don't know.
Yeah, no, they could just send us some free coffee and we'll be probably set for life.
Absolutely, dude.
That's so. Yeah, I mean, so Dave sitting here right now drinking out of a God, I don't even know how to describe it. It's kind of like a gigantic black beaded mug or something like that. It's a Starbucks branded mug, but
so imagine if you guys are familiar with soundproofing.
Yeah, sound rooms. Yeah, I know
so
what
it's
you're
like
talking about.
that. And apparently this cup, when they first came out with them, it's like all about like the supply chain. I get the demand. They didn't have a lot of these, and then people were reselling them on Amazon for like $50.
Oh, it's funny you say that. I was watching Pawn Stars last night, and this girl brings in this like I don't even know how to. It's like it's a mug. It's a Starbucks mug that they apparently had officially put out. It was a $100 mug that holds like 4 gallons of coffee. I mean, it's this gigantic mug, right? And it says Starbucks, and apparently it was a legit thing that Starbucks did for a limited run.
Did you get any money off it?
She sold it to the Pawn Star guy for $225, and he said they resell for like $300 to $400 now.
Oh my!
But you want to talk about
dude,
you need a coffee?
Like, come on now, like who's gonna be buying? I guess like a fanatic would buy it. I was actually at the Apple store last week, and they have these cups. They're the leaf cups or nano leaf cups where you like put it on like a charging thing and it heats up your coffee, but apparently they're not that good. I don't know.
Oh, so Starbucks Starbucks sells those. That's it's the Ember.
The Ember, that's what it is.
Mug. Yeah.
And I heard they're not that good. Have you?
I was looking at one and I read the reviews on Amazon and it was just awful.
That's what, yeah, because
like
people
they
say
crack and
you can't really wash. You have to wash it by hand, I would imagine, because it's like electric. But if you have a niche, I guess you gotta be careful how far you differentiate, because what's like missing the mark, because at one point Starbucks, I don't know if you knew this, was like interested in making furniture or something like that.
No.
Back in the day, like you'd have to look it up, but like apparently they're interested in making furniture, and it's like you have to be careful, what is within your limitations of, okay, this makes sense, or why is a coffee place selling furniture? But they didn't end up doing it because I guess they didn't have the market for it. Because when you're going to buy a coffee, like if you're going, instead of buying a $3 cup of coffee, you're now buying a $5 cup of coffee. I'm not gonna buy a $500 couch, or that's being generous, like I'm not gonna buy a chair for $500. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, no, I get it. I do like the aesthetics of some of the Starbucks, but I don't know if I'd buy.
One day I'm gonna walk into Joe's house and he's gonna turn the bottom of his house.
I mean, breaking this down, right? I mean, I know that. So obviously, with Exclusive Minds, the clothing brand, right? We've been doing hoodies and T-shirts primarily, and I know you got some samples of jewelry, and I was like, do we want to? Do we want to start stretching? I mean, we can't, let's get successful selling clothes before we start to go into other stuff.
I just love like smaller goods, like leather or jewelry. I've always been a fan of that. I don't know what it is that it's like so small, or just something you could just like put in your pocket or handheld or whatever the case is. I just always loved that. And I've had somebody in New York, he has a connection to make jewelry, stainless steel, everything. And we could actually make our own custom jewelry. And I know, like you said, like, oh, what's the market for that? We don't really know. But it's one of those things where even if it doesn't sell, which I don't think we're going to have a problem with, it's just like no one around here is doing that. Like when you think of like clothing brands around, like at least this area for the most part, you're not finding people that are selling necklaces. You're not finding people who are doing that type of deal. And if they are, it's typically like corny, like Pennsylvania or some weird stuff going on with it. And I feel like we could, if we did it right, it would be a huge success, but we just have to kind of find that thing. It's all about making the mark. Does this make sense to do? Does this not make sense to do? And that's why a lot of these companies are extremely successful. Like, I know we're not in the same realm of, but like Louis Vuitton, they have that classic monogram logo on like a kind of like a plain pocketbook. It's just like their thing, and they've got successful doing it. It's all
Yep.
about finding that thing that sticks and can potentially make us billions of dollars. Well, I know it's not all about that, but it's one of those things that just makes your brand. And what is a brand at the end of the day? It's just how you're perceived. And I think if we find something cool like that, it'd be awesome.
Yeah. That's something to look into.
Absolutely.
So I think we're running up on 50 minutes, so we probably got a couple more minutes. Hey, so another real quick thing, because I kind of ran into this the other day too. So when's the last time you were at a mall? Like,
oh man, I know. Here we go. I would say realistically, about a month and a half, 2 months ago.
so what was the crowd level like? Because
Extremely low, man.
it's crazy.
It's like
Like I when did I go? So I was during the week, right? So it was a weekday, kind of in the evening, right? And there was. So here's the weird thing. There were. This is a big mall, right? This is King of Prussia, which is right outside of Pennsylvania. This is probably one of those bigger mega malls.
oh yeah, I think it's the second largest mall in America.
I don't know about that, but it's big, right?
Retail wise,
Because I've been to like Mall of America and stuff like those, and those are really,
they have like
really big places.
They have like
but-
the amusement park.
Yeah,
inside.
yeah. This doesn't have that, but so it was a really weird dynamic. The mall was an absolute ghost town. Like, I don't know how the hell these stores are staying in business, and the only stores in that entire mall that had any crowds
Designer.
were Hermes,
I was gonna say,
Louis
yeah.
Vuitton,
Louis Vuitton
Cartier.
always has a line, dude.
And I'm like, what the hell, man?
yeah. And do you think now what if you were to break that down from like a
It was
back-end
literally like
perspective,
those 4 stores, and everything else is a ghost town.
do you think it's because of the pandemic, or do you think it's just because that's just a thing in the past at this point?
I think the world
Or
we're
a mix.
living in has really shifted towards
Online.
well that, and I think that people are just if they're going to buy something, they want to just go all in on a brand, right?
Yeah. Brand loyalty. That's a big thing that we're learning about in college too.
Brand loyalty, and I'm guessing it's brand flash, brand cachet, right?
Yeah.
Because it's very easy for someone to say, well, I'm brand loyal to whatever's the store right next door that's half the price of Louis
Yeah.
Vuitton, but that doesn't happen, right? So, it's a wild dynamic.
Yeah, and that kind of falls down the category of like brand psych. Like, why do people go to Louis Vuitton in the first place? It's because that's like the higher echelon of brands where if you look at it and you could see that someone's wearing that, oh, that person has money. But typically 9 times out of 10, or I wouldn't say 9 times out of 10, but what are the chances that guy or that person sacrificed everything for that, or
Yeah,
I'm
guessing
spent their
that
whole
happens
monthly
all the time.
That's what I'm saying. So it's kind of one of those things where you have to kind of break that down. But back to the mall being dead thing, look at Exton. When was the last time you were in Exton Mall? Exactly. He couldn't even tell me.
Yeah.
And for the people listening that are not from the area, that's just a mall that's 15, 20, 30 minutes down the road from King of
Yeah,
Prussia.
that's a little regional kind of deal. I think the vast majority of those have all gone under, right? You see those
Yeah.
videos on
It's a ghost town.
YouTube all the time where people are going into these deserted malls. And so Exton, I think, is one of the fact that they're still around is probably pretty amazing. But
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
no designer store in there.
no,
That's like kind of all it is like, people go to the mall. I think the only reason to go to the mall is if you want it right then and there.
Yes.
Like if you were to go, all right, I want to buy a belt, MCM or Gucci belt. I want to get it today. Put it on for like a dinner you have later or something like that. That's like the only reason I could think of people like typically going to the mall still. Although I must say, I am a huge fan of seeing and feeling the material of like what I'm going to put on. I think I could speak for a lot of people with that. I love trying things on because like I guess like nowadays it's not as big because you could just send it back and they could send you
Yeah.
another one. But I like to feel the material. I like to feel like, all right, what's this like made out of, that type of thing. But I guess that's just like kind of more because we own like a clothing brand. So it's like you kind of want to feel like the materials and stuff.
yeah, you're a little bit more in tune to it.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the only thing I could think of like why people still go to the malls. But yeah, it's definitely something that's going under. And I don't know. I haven't been to New York, but my mom has. And I haven't been to like Center City, Philadelphia in a while. But I could imagine a lot of those places, those like stores are closing down. Or are they still open? Like you probably would know more than me.
I don't because I've generally not been. Well, I don't know. Because I haven't really hit the big cities yet. So I haven't been back to New York since pre-COVID. I've heard stories that a lot of those stores have closed down. I mean, it's kind of hard to pay those retail rental spaces when you got no traffic.
Yeah.
But
I mean, especially down that Fifth Avenue or something
Avenue,
like that. Like, what I think you told me like a metric before, like for like.
I knew it at the time. It was
like 10 foot or 10 square feet.
No, like every square foot was like I forget, $2,500. I could be way off, but whatever it is, it was, and some of those stores are tens of thousands of square feet. So every month they're spending like whatever it might be, $250,000 a month in rent. And you're like,
and you got to make that deadline too every month to sell.
I mean, it's funny because I look at it a little bit differently. Having the clothing line, it's like, okay, I know how much money we make on each shirt. And this is a premium line, so maybe they're making, I don't know, 10 times what we make, and it's the math still is really tough to work out. It's like, okay, so these guys have to sell like $1,000 T-shirts to just pay for this space.
Absolutely.
And I know a lot of those are lost leaders, right? They're not actually worried about making money on Fifth Avenue. It's just you have to sort of be there, and on your online site you say, yes, we have a storefront in Beverly Hills, and we have a storefront on Fifth Avenue, and we have a storefront
kind of like
faking
Paris it
and
until
Milan.
you make it type deal.
Well, it's not necessarily faking it. It's just you have to have a retail presence. Because there are certain buyers there, but it's a lost leader, right?
Yeah.
They kind of know they're losing money. I think Apple kind of changed that whole model because now they look at their storefronts as profit centers. But I think a lot of the clothing lines, it was just a lost leader.
Did you see that guy that fell down the Apple stairs in Times Square? He was taking a video, and he was like recording like his new phone that he bought or something like that. And he was going down the ones in New York where it's like a spiral staircase. And for some reason they make like the stairs like they're like clear or something
glass.
like that. Yeah. And he fell down the stairs as he bought the new phone, and it was going around for a long time, but. It was just like a random thing that popped up.
He probably got 1 million views in a week, right? And here we are on this podcast
talking about him,
begging for a couple hundred views, right? So
it's funny that happened, but I mean, it is interesting. It's one of those things where you kind of have to position yourself to kind of seem like a reputable business, like you said, posting yourself up on Beverly Hills or whatever it is, but. Yeah, you gotta sell.
Well, it gives you credibility. And stuff
it gives you a huge amount of credibility. Like if someone who doesn't know that brand, they're like, "Oh, who is Goyard, for example?" Yeah. Oh, well, they have a store on Beverly Hills right next to the Rolex store, whatever.
Yeah,
people will be like, "Oh, okay."
And even there's like that one wing within King of Prussia where all the higher end clothing stores are at, and I'm walking by, and there are lines that I've never heard of. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that they're not well known, but I've never heard of these clothing lines, and I'm like, how? And they're all empty, and I've never seen anybody go in, and I'm like, how in the heck are these people like making ends meet? And so I don't know. There's a lot of interesting things.
A lot of stuff that goes behind that, but I know, for example, are you familiar with Hermes's what's that called? Birkin bag?
Are we talking Hermes? Sorry.
Yeah, the Birkin bag.
Yes.
All right. Yeah. So I think the deal with these Birkin bags, for people that don't know, is I think it's more of a collector's item, if I'm not mistaken. But these bags go for like some of them go for like $100,000.
It's the we talked about this before, right? It's that artificially deflated inventory levels to kind of elevate the profile.
Is that what it is?
Yeah. So what you end up having is you've got a whatever it might be, $20,000 purse.
Pocketbook,
they only release like 100, and there's overwhelming demand for it. So then there's a huge secondary market. It's just it's like some of the cars these days. It's like Apple with their initial launches and sort of soft playing the inventory. I'm sure that Hermes and that whole organization could print or could make as many of those bags as they could possibly do it. They just don't, because they artificially keep the prices high. They artificially, create this demand and cachet that people keep coming back year after year after year after year to buy them. So there's something to that. It's just you have to get there, right?
I saw one. I don't know if this is like the name of one. It was like pink crocodile skin or some wild extravagant color
I don't know for sure, but I think there's like a whole design studio. So you literally can go in and order a custom one with any color,
any colorway.
There's certain materials that they can dye certain things. It's almost it's the macked out version of what we try and do by offering up hoodies with 4 different colors where they you can get it in crocodile and tortoiseshell and purple and whatever to match your Bugatti.
It's funny you say that, yeah, because when we went to that McLaren show the other week, sorry, they were telling me that McLaren is one of those brands that has like the widest spec of like color options available. Like apparently they're I guess whoever does their colors and stuff like that.
Group,
yeah, exactly. It's like the top in the world. So they could get any color way that you want, spec out your car any way which way you want. And you got to have some appreciation for these brands that could do such things like that. Like we went into the Louis Vuitton store the one day and I was looking for cologne. I was like, all right, I need to look for cologne. Of course I went there. And for one bottle of cologne, it was $250, right? And I'm like, I was talking to the guy and he was like, yeah, so the deal is the guy that whoever owns Louis Vuitton, he went around looking for the best cologne. He found a brand that had the best cologne and he bought the woods off of them because I guess like this whole like forest area
has a certain
type deal.
Sure.
Yeah, and he basically bought the rights to the cologne just based off of this one thing. And it's like, you got to have some appreciation for that because he's going above and beyond. But I don't know. It's
that's
just
attention to detail.
Yeah,
sure.
Exactly. Like if you like want this, or if you go out and buy a farm that has like the best cows that you could use for leather for your product, I mean, you got to have some sort of respect for that because they're trying to go above and beyond, just like how we talked about McLaren. But that's all it is, man. It's just attention to detail.
Yep. So we are on an hour, so we probably should
wrap it up.
So thanks, everyone. This is episode 4. We might potentially record maybe a short podcast at Thanksgiving. I'm actually hosting, and I thought it would be interesting to get some of our more colorful family members on. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. I definitely we definitely have some strong opinions come on here. I mean, I don't know how that would work out. And then we also talked about maybe doing like a longer podcast if we had like guests on here, and I don't know.
Well, I don't know if we would ever do longer, right? I mean,
the vibe was right.
We actually have metrics on, how or what the average listen time is, and I think last time I checked, it was like 34% of a podcast gets listened to.
Hey, it's still better than none.
So at this point, no one's listening. So unfortunately, but hang in there. I know there's a couple people listen all the way through. But anyway, so let's wrap up. And we'll be back for sure next week. And who knows, maybe we'll have another midweek bonus episode if we get some Thanksgiving stuff going on.
It's crazy. It's this week already.
Yeah, time flies. But all right, cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
And take care.
See you.